Happy Sunday. How are you?
Happy Sunday. I'm doing pretty well. I've got an absolutely insane week ahead of me, so it
Really?
actually it started this weekend because this is the second chat I've recorded, which I don't do very many. So to do two in a weekend's a big deal. But how are you? How's things going?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Today was my first day to announce two things. One is inviting all the speakers to come think about Legend Haven. So I think you probably may have got an email or my timer's sending that out through my inbox. So you'll get an invite hopefully pretty soon to that. So I've spent the last week just building it out, trying to make it all work as easily as possible, make it all super cool. Um, So yeah, getting the new con out, and I'm like shaking out the jitters of finally inviting like 100 emails, 100 people to see if they want to join, and then also trying something a little bit new. I'm running a new contest and announce that in the community as well for Saint Stories for Teens, and
Okay.
trying to use that as kind of my in to go talk to all the Catholic schools and dioceses that I can, because they would love a project like that. That's very clearly something like, oh yeah, well, my kid's involved in that,
What
and
what is that? What is you say Saint Story for teens? Is this
yeah, it's called so
like
it's a contest. It's the same way that we run our other anthologies. I'm looking for 10 stories. I want epic lives of saints or scenes from saints' stories, saints' lives, and it's written for teenagers. And then the parameters for who creates in it publicly is 16 through 20. But on the inside of the community, I'm already get people going like, "Oh man, there's an age limit on this thing," and I'm like, "Well, I actually want to do this as a series, so if we have people in the community want to be involved in this, we'll probably do a follow-up album or a follow-up anthology as well, which could be cool."
yeah. Well, Dominic, I do appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. I see all the things that you do, just getting the emails and the notifications from Legend Fiction. You've got a family and it's a Sunday afternoon right now. So I'm definitely appreciative.
Hey, no, this is a treat. Sundays, I'm either like burning through a book or trying to catch up on a Netflix series, and conversation's always more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I wanted to start off with, I mean, there's a few things that we had talking about, but I wanted to start off with hearing a little bit more of your story, if you will. So, Legend Fiction, Legend Haven, they've been great for me as I'm kind of your stereotypical introverted author, but I've loved Legend Fiction and the people I've met through it, and I know a lot of other people have had that experience. But I guess I don't know a ton about your backstory and the genesis of Legend Fiction. So maybe start with where you came from creatively, and then how that got to Legend Fiction and where it is today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, where I came from creatively. That's a take on this question I've not heard before. What does that mean to you? Like, what are you looking for with that one? That's interesting.
The genesis of your creative drive, like when did you start to realize that creating, storytelling were things that were important enough to you that you were going to do them long into your future and it wasn't just a hobby of your childhood or your youth?
Okay, I got to think for a second. I don't know that I ever thought differently. I always wanted to be in fiction. So, um, my earliest kind of creative memories was I was born in New Zealand, and so my dad would take us to the library, and then after the library, we would go to a little French cafe right across the street. This is in downtown, I don't know, Wellington, maybe. And Fridays were the special day. I don't know if he had anything else going on or he just wanted to teach us to love books. And then after, we would get a bunch of big picture books like Babar or Tintin or Asterix and Obelix. We would then go over to the cafe and we would get ginger beer and croissants. So it was I loved that experience. And then he himself was always doodling Roman soldiers on the doodle pad when he was on the phone with people. And so I would always admire those and then try to copy them as well. And then he would always read aloud history books to us, like stories of, or getting books of ancient Egypt or books of the past. And like he loved Egypt, um, basically all ancient history. So our home was full of Usborne or what are they, Usborne books for, history for kids and stuff like that. Um, in that sense, a very nerdy family, I suppose. My mom wasn't that much into it. Like she's very happy that all the boys were into that sort of stuff. I'm eldest of 8 kids, So it wasn't very long before he stopped kind of engaging with us because there's just more and more kids, and then he was having to work more, and so we kind of isolated and went to do our own things. But I remember being 13 years old and I found a book in a dollar store. We shopped a lot at dollar stores. At this point, we were living in Australia. And I found a book written by a 13-year-old boy, and he praised his teacher for taking a chance on him or encouraging him. And he finished writing this book. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot his name. So I was 13 or 12 at the time, 12, probably 13. And I remember looking at his tousled hair, and he wrote a book called The Prophecy. And it was about a human boy going on some big Tolkien-y sort of adventure. And it was a short book. And I remember getting to the end of that, and I thought, if he can do it, I can do it. And I instantly invented a novel type story, and I went and wrote it with a ballpoint pen. And it was all written by hand. And I thought, this is the best thing ever. And I typed it all up when it was all done, like 3 months later. And it came to about 50 pages or something. And after that, I got into science fiction and superheroes and really got into a lot of drawing and artwork and stuff like that. Well, about 16, I went and wrote the sequel to that novel over about a weekend. And I couldn't believe how fast I pounded that thing out. And then um, by the time I was like 21 or so, I had like massive novel ideas that I wanted to write, but hit something new. I'd hit imposter syndrome. And I realized I didn't know enough about life. I didn't know enough about what flowers grow in spring in the Northern Hemisphere in Europe. Why that should hold you back from writing a novel is the dumbest thing ever, but it did. And I never wrote an epic novel because I couldn't answer that question. And I didn't know how to begin to answer. Now we've got stuff like ChatGPT, right? I would read encyclopedias for fun because there was nothing else to do half the time. When you have 8 kids and you just moved to a new country, like we finally moved to the United States. So we didn't really go out much. We didn't go to, many places. We fought with each other. We rolled down the stairs, made swords out of whatever and pillow fights and stuff. And you just read books constantly. And so I would read the libraries dry. So I would dream of wanting to be a full-time fiction novelist. I thought that would be the best thing ever. My mom actually took a chance on me as well. And, well, both my parents did. They put me through a really intensive correspondence course with a hard as nails nun out of Wagga Wagga in Australia. And I think that I don't realize how tough that program was because I didn't get any of my other schoolwork done. And I developed gut issues that manifested as like dermatitis, because the pressure was so high and I guess I didn't know how to manage it. And I think there was other stuff going on with the family at the time as well that I was internalizing and as a kid didn't know how to process or whatever. So I graduated, well, did that for a lot of my high school years. And then we moved to the United States. My mom put me through another 2-year course to the Writers Institute for Children's Literature out of West Reading, Connecticut. So I graduated from that. It was the best thing I ever did. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to be a full-time writer. And at the same time, she was like, basically, I kind of believe in your dreams. I need you to show up and prove them. But please, for the love of something holy, get an actual job. Be a plumber, be an architect, right? And then as it turned out, I started working for the family business. And then I basically held down that fort so that all my siblings could go to community college and do other things. And so work with my dad to keep doing his stuff. And that's where I started discovering stuff like, well, branding and marketing and design and like all of the artistic stuff from just drawing and painting and coloring constantly as a kid. All of that graduated into becoming graphic design. And then after I got married, I discovered, oh, you can take how storytelling works and you can apply it to branding. And branding is basically storytelling for a business. But instead of characters, you have clients. And they all have goals they want out of life. And now you're kind of a Yoda or a Gandalf, and you're helping them achieve the goal of their lives. And dramatically horrible or wonderful things could happen if you get it right or get it wrong. It's like, wow, well, this actually works. I get to scratch multiple itches at once. And so I'd played that game for about 10 years. And then the pandemic hit. And at that point, I'm like, so you mentioned being a bit of an introvert. I've struggled being an introvert forever. And after this conversation, I'll go like quietly hide away for like, 2 days and like recuperate, right? But during the pandemic is when I realized this is a problem because if nobody knows about me, they're not going to hire me for work. And I'd just been fired from working with a little agency or laid off, whatever. He was downsizing and he ended up closing up like less than a year later. And I went across the street and basically went to work for the competition. And and then they were slowly winding down, over the next year. And I'm like, I need new options. And then somebody said, "Hey, you want to come do, conferences?" And I'm like, sure, but I'm exhausted of doing stuff on my own. I'd already started two other side projects that had sort of I'd been on podcasts and interviews for them, and this was like, wow, this is really fun, but it was exhausting to do. And so I said, okay, I'll start this Catholic conferences thing with you, but you know, I'm not going to do it alone. Okay, I need friends. And he's like, yeah, that's great. So we started this conference, and 2 weeks into no, 2 weeks from the deadline, everybody walked away. They couldn't do it anymore. Pandemic was too much, and I was left holding the bag. And I thought, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to do this. And so, hey, look, did that. And then I liked the story that I was telling myself by being somebody who could do that sort of stuff just because I wanted to. And then I was like, a new door opened, and I realized I can do stuff if I want. If nobody can stop me, and if it's a good thing and I believe in it, I'm going to keep doing it. So I ended up helping to put on and support about 12 conferences in that first year. And then we graduated into becoming a community. And then in the middle of doing that, I realized, wait, I could do a fiction community. That'd be fun. All these people who like writing stories, novels. What if we do that? And then as it turns out, this is the one community that I love spending all my time on. I'm now one solid year. So, legend fiction is about 4 to 5 years old now. But this is the first year where I took it really seriously and I dropped every other side project and basically did nothing else except think about it and build it and try to listen to what people want and try to listen to what I want to do and where I think the world is going and build something I believe in that I think is good and fun. And I think it's working. So I'm really glad that you are hanging around the community and you're getting a lot out of it. So there you go. This is the story so far, and I don't ever plan to end.
So a question came to mind when you're talking about that, because on the one hand, I hear this passion for writing. And on the other hand, you're putting all this energy and effort into legend fiction. How does that balance work? Like, do you ever find yourself going, man, I wish I could put this aside for a month or two to work on this book?
Yeah, totally. There is no balance. You have to pick a priority and then you sacrifice everything for it. So there are serious days and moments where I'm like, I would like to be able to go and just write this novel. Like, this thing would be incredible. Like, I walk through Barnes and Noble and I see these stacks of books all written by the same author, or I'll pull it up on Kindle and I'll look at multiple series written by the same author. I look at that and I go, I could do that. I want to do that. I've got the story worlds and the story arenas that I believe in, nobody else knows about, that I want to go write. And then, of course, the judgy side of you comes in and goes, you failure. You're not living up to why you're here. You're supposed to be writing because writers write. What kind of leader do you think you are anyway of a writing community if you're not actually doing your own writing? Well, what's my answer? I'm at a point in my life where I just have to make a decision or make priorities. And I need to create some additional income. So other people have lives that they're constructed where they might be carefully organized, where they can spend time writing because they don't have as many other things to think about. In my case, I don't have that kind of life. We have a bunch of medical debt. My wife has a chronic, health condition, and we just need extra income. And so that's just the name of the game. So I've got a day job, which I hold down, make everybody happy with. And then I look at my free time and I try to think, which has been my goal for this past year. If I've got to spend my time working on something, what is something that's going to be really fun for me? It's going to be really fun for other people. It's going to do as much good as humanly possible. And it's aligned with all of my interests. And the best thing that I could think of was a project like this. Because at the very least, I'm able to hang around really cool people who are writing things and playing with that energy, playing in that space, playing with that creativity. And I can hope to offer, some of what I've learned or what's making sense to me. So this is a season, of my life where I'm not able to write as intensely as I want to, but I am able to build and shore up a whole bunch of foundation. And then a point will come where I will be able to kind of pull back and, maybe build a team or sort of cash in on some of the effort and energy that's gone into building it so that it can kind of run itself a bit more. And then I'll be able to go back and focus on more of the stories that I want to write.
So you mentioned you've been really putting a lot of effort into it. Or you've been focusing in a different way, a different intensity on Legend Haven right now. So where is it going? Like, what is the trajectory of it? What are your plans for the near future? I'm excited about the spring conference, that the way you're going to do Legend Haven. And I'm hoping that it aligns with my cover release so I can join and do that. But where do you see it going? Are we ever going to get in-person conferences? Because that's
That's
what
the
I
goal.
want.
That's what I want to see too. Obviously, an in-person conference it's very expensive. There's a lot more, logistics and responsibility and stuff that goes into that sort of thing. So what we would probably do, unless something absolutely magical drops out of the sky, what we'd probably do is, for example, host a Legend Haven con inside somebody else's con until we get big enough to have our own. So Realm Makers, Scott Miner has already kind of offered that. He's like, hey, why don't you just invite all your people, buy up one of the ballrooms at a Realm Makers conference one year and invite all you people to come to it. And it's just the best option probably for a long time that we'll probably do. So that's for in-person conferences. For now, going online is just insanely valuable because I'm trying to do better than everybody else out there that I can think of, being a one-man band. So take that for what it's worth. But I'm now trying to do something different than what I've seen other conferences do, where they will either gate a ton of content or they will fire hose you with a ton of content. And the thing is that content is easy. Anybody can record content. Content is more valuable for credibility, for spending time with another person, getting a sense of their vibe. You don't want to gate that, and that's why I'm going live streams on YouTube. I'm spending a ton of time trying to teach myself how to do that every week, and then I'm going to invite whoever wants to be involved. Come and hang out with me on a big old live stream, 4 of them actually, on the con weekend, and we're all just going to hang out together, and you get a 15-minute TED Talk to share and talk about whatever you want, and that gets archived on the channel for free forever. And that's what you do with content. Passive listening, you have fun, live chat, stuff like that. What do we actually sell access to at the conference? It's access to each other, because that's not free. You got to use tech to make that happen. And so we're using the Legend Haven community for that. And so it's also a way for people to test and get a sense of what the community's like, find resources, join story read alouds. That was the thing that stood out for me in the last con, where I dropped into a couple of different booths where authors were reading aloud their novels. And I thought, this is the coolest thing. It's kind of relaxing. I get to hear hear an actual author reading a bit of their story aloud. When you go to a fiction con, it's kind of what you go for is to hear people take you into their worlds, into their stories. And so I'm like, okay, we're doing more of that this new year. So we're going to take all the content, put that for free on YouTube. People can watch that later if they want. It's important, but what's also as important is the stories, meeting each other, geeking out, author AMAs, that sort of thing. And then we've got our own writing school. Gabby, who hosts that writing school, she and I spent like about 6 months kind of passively kind of looking at what are the other schools that are out there. And then from the outside, what do we like and dislike about them? And then we've now got an indie fiction author marketing mastermind, which I think you're a part of. And so we hang out once a month to start creating and collabing and sharing resources so that we're not marketing alone. Legend Haven is kind of a massive outgrowth of like authors not feeling like they need to market alone anymore. So come and join these events, now twice a year. Into the future, I want to grow the team because it's becoming bigger and bigger to kind of handle. I'd love to start a print magazine. I want to feature all of these incredible creators, and a print magazine is something that can be mailed out to people. And that's valuable and fun. It's like, imagine schools having an actual legend fiction magazine of, who are new indie authors you should know and love for, especially in this space where morality and meaning and myth making and magic matters to you. It's very Christian stuff. Oh, and then publishing. That's the thing I want to get into in the future. We're putting baby steps now in starting that with our anthologies. The next step is royalty shares, where all the money that comes in from the purchase of a book goes straight to the authors who are involved in writing that book. And then once we figure out that model and that works, then I want to get into publishing where we can tap certain authors in our community and go, you're awesome. We want to publish with you. And we'll have really generous royalty markups where it's like almost instant. Payouts are almost instant, right? And then this sort of dovetails a little bit into AI, which is kind of one of the things we want to talk about today. Because here's the problem with one of the downsides about AI, just it's everywhere. And there's so much of it, for better or for worse. And there is a lot of it that is worse. Publishers are having a very hard time when they run contests or they're looking to publish people. People will literally take the contest guidelines, drop it in chat, say, generate the story, do it in this style, and then send that off. And do that as a way to try to make money. And the publishers are like, we're at a point where we can't even tell. We can't even use AI on real human stuff because the AI is flagging genuine human stuff as AI generated. So it's a serious problem. So how is legend fiction solving that issue? Because we want to run contests. We're solving that by creating a high trust environment where people know people, where people see other people building and working on their craft, so that if legend fiction comes up and goes, we endorse this author because we know them. Now, I need to figure out what we do when we have 10,000 people in here. At that point, probably there's a lot of mentors, smaller groups is probably the answer. But that's got to be the only answer I can think of, is a high credibility, high trust environment that helps to keep out the slop.
Yeah, it's a high character, kind of community. I just love what you're aiming for. You're swinging for the fences in the best way. And I really, I hope it comes to fruition.